Hi guys, and welcome to episode 21 of my Mortal Realms review series. You'll have to forgive the vest. I've been trying to get in a workout because I'm getting old and fat, basically. It happens to all dads, and sort of middle-aged spread, but to be honest, I still haven't lost baby weight from the last one. That was 4 years ago. But yeah, we've got Mortal Realms issue 21 to review. Looks like we're back to weekly now. They sent us a letter in the post, a letter in the magazines for when they were going to go fortnightly. Last week they sent us 2 magazines, neither of which had a letter saying they were back to weekly. But and I didn't get any email or anything like that. But we are indeed back to weekly, which is cool. So let's have a look at what we've got in the magazine. Mustn't forget the bases. Ooh. Sparkly, sparkly. Some with slots and holes, some without slots or holes, just to mess with your head. And we've got these guys, which we've had before. So this is just a filler episode. These guys will build, it's the same sprue we had last time, so these guys will build up your squad of Dread Scythe Harridans. And again, when you get these, you're saving quite a bit of money. Check the previous Dread Scythe Harridan episode to see how much that is. We've got another one of these little fold-outs. The war, which covers the War of Life, which is basically Nurgle versus... what's her face? Versus the Dryads and their leader, whose name I have forgotten because she's all cool. Alariel, that's it. I kept wanting to say Ariel, but I'm thinking, no, that's the Little Mermaid. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what happened with the Little Mermaid versus Nurgle, but, sure. Whilst Nurgle is by quite a few people considered almost a god of death and disease because he's very much about decay and kind of ends and stuff like that, he is also considered a god of life because he's very much, he's about virulent plagues, which are things that multiply. He's about being sick and just enduring and things like that. So he is very much a god of life and death, and kind of claims himself as kind of almost a god of life, which is pretty cool, with all his little diseases and that. Whereas the Sildneth are the natives of the Realm of Knife. Sorry, I said knife there, of the Realm of Life. Early on in the war, in the Realm Wars, when Sigmar pulled his armies back, the Realm of Life had to retreat as well without that support. And they did it by basically going into a dormant phase because they can do that. They're kind of trees. And the Wood Elves ran away because they kind of had to survive. However, the Realm of Life has, the Dryads, the Tree Men, Alariel have not forgiven them. They said, you ran away. Yes, you're all going to die, but we expected you to die to defend us, which seems a bit unreasonable. But then again, they are plants. Since then, with the aid of Sigmar, Alariel has been reborn in such a way as she's now in her war form and managed to drive Nurgle substantially back. But the war for the Realm of Life is far from over, so that's some interesting stuff there that you'll want to read. Let's get into the magazine. Signed by our Plague Lord Ian. First up, we've got a band of brothers. When an unusual, seemingly impossible objective arises, the Stormhost leader or one of his lesser lords will raise a formation designed to achieve that particular goal. The most common of these temporary formations are known as brotherhoods. So that's pretty cool. It goes on here. Brotherhoods include units selected from across a number of different chambers. Usually these formations are carefully assembled and planned to ensure the mission is a success. So this very much sounds like almost the army building stage of it. You might have a massive chamber, but you'll assemble a small army for particular battles and tasks, or it could be moving over to the skirmish games that we've got. This is usually done in order to take advantage of a tactical opportunity or seize initiative from a foe. One of the first forces Stormcast Eternals to enter the realms was Hammers of Sigmar, Thunderstrike Brotherhood of the Hammerhand's Chamber. Because, you know, Strike Force Alpha is not enough words. They went up against the Gore-Tide, and yeah, basically goes on to tell you about the Brotherhood and about what they do. Very happy, very shiny. Both feared and beloved. For beleaguered mortal armies, the arrival of Stormcast Eternals is a joyous sight to behold. However, whilst the colours of most storm hosts are associated with heroism and sacrifice, not all are viewed the same way. Some have a reputation for zealotry, oppression, or crazed slaughter. Stab, stab. The arrival of the glistening hosts of radiant Sons of Sigmar is likely to inspire hope. The Knights Excelsior, however, are known for their destructive methods of making war and are treated warily by their allies. So it's going through to explain the different factions. You got the Knights Excelsior, the Giran Guard, the Radiant Sons of Sigmar, the Bloody Dawn, and the Angels Etheric, who are nice and deep red, not drawing for the Blood Angels at all. There's several blurbs about them, and you've got several colour schemes. Battlefields left behind the Knights Excelsior are scorched and smoking, for their role is that of Holy Destroyer and Annihilator. The Giran Guard were formed of a single tribe of warriors that are the last of their kind. They have a special hatred for the pestilent forces of the plague god Nurgle. So they're in Giran, the realm of life, so that's pretty cool. Let's have a look at the Angels Etheric. Warriors of the Angels Etheric are drawn from monster hunting tribes that dwell dangerously close to the magically unstable outer edges of Azir, places hostile to life. So you've got another bunch of storm hosts there. Sorry, bit Tourette'sy. That are pretty cool, and you can run some stuff on. Oh, by the way, welcome to the Wargamer cubbyhole. It's a little place in my bedroom. Wife's back there asleep. And farting. She does that a lot in her sleep.
And I talk in my sleep too.
You do. It's just a nice little cubbyhole I've built myself, which is private. I'm going to get some nice curtains. Unfortunately, the Wargamer shed, which is my secondary location for filming, is now full of pallets, so I kind of end up tripping over them. So I've set this up as a little secondary place to film if I can't film downstairs, and I can't at the moment because my girls are downstairs trying to get their brains in gear for sleep, which takes a while. Oh yeah, and Judy is not with us this week and may not be with us for a few weeks because she's doing all the finishing up for school, and they're giving her a ton of work, and she's trying to get her Duke of Edinburgh done, which unfortunately takes up time but is more important than a webcast, apparently. Anyway, moving on to the next part. Chaos Gods. We've got a nice introduction to the Chaos Gods here. Have we got all four? We've got all five. I'll read through the blurbs. From beyond the boundaries of reality, Chaos Gods look upon the Outrealms with hungry eyes. It is in their nature to destroy. Relentless and unstoppable, they seek to invade and corrupt reality. And so on. You've got four Chaos Gods. Nurgle, who's the Lord of Disease. Where are we? The Lord of Disease delights in decay and physical corruption. The cycle of decay and rebirth draws Nurgle the way a corpse draws flies. During times of pestilence and rampant contagion, Nurgle becomes stronger to the great dismay of all his rivals. So pretty much all the time during times of war, during times of siege, during times of plague and stuff like that, Nurgle is going to be getting some strength. Khorne. Khorne is the most powerful of the Chaos Gods. No subtlety has he. No subtlety has he. For Khorne is the Blood God, Lord of Skulls, There is room in his black heart for rage and rage alone. Khorne's only desires are slaughter and warfare. He seeks to test his might against the most powerful foes. So basically, Khorne is a god of war, where Nurgle's main kind of emotional state is depression and decay and relentless plodding. Khorne's is rage and anger and fighting. It is worth noting that inside Khorne there is actually still room for honor and things like that, because he's very much about the martial ideal, about having a good fight rather than just killing. Although he will accept that as well. The better the fight, the more anger and the more blood spilled, the happier Khorne is. Although, as is rightly said, Khorne cares not from whence the blood flows. He's just as happy to see his own guys die as he is the opposition. Next, we've got Slaanesh or Slaanesh. The pronunciation of all these names is up for debate. GW has, on occasion, said they're pronounced one way and then gone and said they're pronounced the other way. So there's no really wrong way. Slaanesh is the Dark Prince, the god of excess and the lord of pleasure. He's the most beautiful of all the Chaos gods. Slaanesh's throne is currently empty, however, for the god himself is lost. His minions feel despair and confusion in his absence, while the remaining powers rejoice. Basically, Slaanesh was captured by other lesser gods, if you will, and has been kidnapped, and he's being fondled by elves. So he's not in the pantheon. One of the reasons for that is actually slightly out of character, where he's very much the god of excess and the god of experiences. He's also kind of a sexual god, which when it was aimed at older people and when the GW were coming up with it was quite cool. And in the kind of 40k realm, you can ignore it or you can use it. He's about both pleasure and pain. He's primarily in the 40k realm brought about by the Eldar and their excesses. But with the Age of Sigmar being very much aimed at the younger realm, so that 40k is aiming for one sort of target group, and Age of Sigmar, whilst it has crossover, is aiming for different target groups, so that they're not kind of fighting each other, but rather complementing each other in GW's business plans, which is important. We need the business to run if we're going to get the models. That unfortunately has left GW with a situation where hermaphrodite one-boobed demons and their insect tongue monsters were not necessarily appropriate for their entire target audience, so they seem to have temporarily retired Slaanesh. He's still got loads of stuff and he's still getting some new stuff, but they kind of put him on the back boiler in the lore for now. I think kids play this. My little girl's going to be playing this. I can see why they've gone, okay, we're going to back away from it a little bit so as not to upset the mums and dads of our target audience, which I get. I mean, I was playing it from a young kid and Slaanesh was always there when I was playing it, but it's a legitimate choice. Next we have, I've explained that, but I've not gone about Slaanesh. Slaanesh is primarily a god of, he's primarily portrayed as a god of pleasure and a god of experience, but he's a little bit like, if you've seen Hellraiser, the Cenobites from Hellraiser, in the intense pain, intense pleasure. They're all the same to Slaanesh and followers of Slaanesh. The more they enjoy something, the more they need to keep enjoying something. They keep needing to ramp it up, just to continue to get the same level of pleasure, which is why eventually you get these mental psychopaths charging the battlefield who rather than not feeling pain, like for example a Nurgle person, actually want it, actually actively seek slaughter and pain for the pleasure of it. Slaanesh is also the youngest of the Chaos Gods, but considered generally the weakest because he is the youngest, because you need a certain level of civilization for people to indulge in a lot of the excesses. If they're too busy just trying to survive, it can be difficult for them to get there, or them to find. a decent amount of pleasure in life or a decent amount of pain. They're usually more focused on dealing with things that the other Chaos Gods provide. The last of the actual full-on Chaos Gods is Tzeentch. These guys are the big four. Tzeentch's domain are magic and cunning, for he is the god of sorcery and deceit, the changer of ways, the great manipulator, and the architect of fate, forever coming up with new schemes, plots within plots that are beyond the understanding of mere mortals. Tzeentch or Tzeentch, however you want to pronounce it, is kind of in a way the most sort of chaos-like of the Chaos Gods, because he's the god of change, and chaos is continually changing. To a certain extent, it's kind of a struggle to represent or understand Tzeentch, because whilst he is kind of constantly changing, sometimes he sticks to things for quite a while, because if he were just continually changing and continually chaotic, A, he wouldn't win anything because he'd be retreating as soon as he charged, and B, that would kind of be a pattern, and Tzeentch doesn't like to do patterns, although Tzeentch does have patterns within patterns. If he keeps doing the same thing or following the same pattern, he's not changed. Or she's not changed. The Chaos Gods, there is no real gender definition, although Slaanesh is meant to be all genders simultaneously, whereas the others, they're massive kind of coalescences of psychic and emotional energy. To apply a gender to them seems a bit weird to begin with, but when they appear, if they have a gender, it'll be the gender they're wearing that day, or that suits them, for that mood. Finally, they've given us the Great Horned Rat. Now, I've kind of sort of like put him aside from the Chaos Gods, really, because he's a god, and he's a god of chaos. He's a god the same way that Sigmar is the god of humanity. Alariel is the god of the Dryads and of many of the elves. He's the god of the Skaven. Now, they've been using him a lot because they kind of pulled Slaanesh out, and he was one of the more powerful gods waiting in the wings. But he represents aspects of kind of all the other chaos gods, as most kind of species gods do. Yeah, your species god represents the species, so it has all the emotional conglomerations of that species. Sigmar very much representing humanity in both its glory and its hubris. Alariel being weird and alien and plant-like, both kind of representing the Sylvaneth that she actively leads, and the elves that for a long time have or had worshipped her, as well as almost the arrogance of the elves, where they believe they're right no matter what. Their decision is the right decision. And because of that, the Sigmar has a bit of corn in him, because he goes to war and he loves fighting. He's had complex plans within plans, which is a bit of Tzeentch, and so on and so forth. And the Horned Rat is kind of more of a pantheon god than a chaos god in that respect. Each of the other four gods represents specific emotional states of humans. Basically, that's how chaos gods are created. As sentient beings, Rose and Rose, their emotions and their souls tainted warp space, which is where chaos gods live. And like emotions attracted each other. So the four main chaos gods are gods of pure emotion, which is why they're so powerful, because every species feels depression and hopelessness. Therefore, every species contributes to Nurgle. Every species plots and plans. Therefore, every species contributes to Tzeentch. Every species in the Age of Sigmar and the 40k realms feels anger and fights wars. Therefore, every species contributes to Khorne. Every species feels pleasure or pain, and eventually indulges in some kind of excess, even if it's just the excess of slaughter. Therefore, every species contributes to Slaanesh, whereas the Great Horned One is the Skaven specific god. So he is slightly different, but they've included him in the Chaos Pantheon because he's one of the most powerful gods, and because they kind of needed somebody to step up and take Slaaneş's place if they weren't going to use Slaanesh. The thing about that is the Great Horned One definitely represents aspects of Nurgle, Khorne, and Tzeentch, kind of heavily, and even Slaanesh, kind of heavy on the Nurgle and Tzeentch, because the Skaven are massive plotters, but they're rats. They live in filth and disease and things like that, kind of their thing. I'll read the thing here. The Great Horned Rat. The Great Horned Rat is blight and pestilence given form, which, again, that's Nurgle already. Having recently ascended to godhood, the god of the Skaven is not considered equal by his brothers. However, treacherous plotting has always been the way of vermin. Soon he will rise. So right there, he seems, he's really gotten very powerful compared to a lot of the other pantheonic gods, to the point where he's nearing sort of chaos god levels, but he's not quite a chaos god. And you can see from the description, he's literally, it's like Nurgle and Tzeentch had a baby and it was a rat. He's a great god. The models for him are, well, there are different models for the Horned Rat demons, which are fantastic. But he was always a minor god / or chaos, chaos prince or powerful chaos demon of the Skaven, and now he's been sort of elevated to full godhood. I don't know where that places him in terms of versus Slaanesh, versus Slaanesh, versus I don't know where it places him in terms of versus Slaanesh or the other chaos gods, or other than he is in theory weaker, and I don't know where it places him in comparative strength levels to Sigmar or Nagash or anything like that. But he's a cunning bugger and he knows how to bide his time, so we'll see. Of Bones and Blood, Encounters with the Dead. Oh, that's nifty. We've got a little mini book. Oh no, we just got, they've just done us a really nice sort of blank page. And then, welcome reader to the Journal of Tyrus von Stad, Sigmar Save His Soul. We've been getting a lot of this stuff from this guy recently, and now we've got 2 whole pages. Mayhaps this is going to be a thing they do. I don't know. But we've been given a front page and an intro to a Tomb of Cool Awesomeness. We've got a lot of stuff about the Realms of the Dead. Maybe this is just a front page for it. Doesn't really say. Next, we've got How to Build the Dread Scythe Harridans, which we had in the previous book, but this is how to build the ones we've got now, which I think are pretty much the same ones. I think there are some alternate. There might be some alternate builds here because they've given some different instructions, and one of them is definitely not that was in the last one is definitely not included. However, that's all cool. Remember your clipper safety. You don't want to lose an arm or a leg. Those clippers can be dangerous. Next, we've got How to Paint Dread Scythe Harridans. Obviously, we've got more paints since we got the last ones. This is recommending Corax White, Nihilak Oxide, Cantor Blue, Abaddon Black, and Dryad Bark. As we can see, the base ethereal coat is still the same. They're giving it some more solidarity, which frankly I don't think you really need to do. I kind of think by giving it sort of more colour and solidarity, it looks less ethereal, but what do I know? The end result should still be awesome. And you've got that there. Next, you've got a battle round, Heroes and Wizards. So in this issue, rather than a playthrough, you'll be playing your first battle plan. This reference sheet has been designed to guide you through the basic game of Age of Sigmar. You'll be using this reference sheet for your battle plans for several future issues, so file it away safely. Well, you've been told. They're using battle rounds in this one, which is player 1's turn and then player 2's turn combined, which is kind of an important bit because the battle rounds usually determine how long the game lasts. At the start of each battle round, players roll off and the winner decides who takes the first turn. If the result is a tie, then the player who went first in previous battle rounds decides. If it's the first battle round, you roll again. So that's fairly standard. You've got 3 command abilities here at the double. Use this command ability after you make a run roll for a friendly unit that is within 6 inches of a friendly hero. If you do so, it's considered 6. Forward to victory and Inspiring Presence, both of which we've had all 3 of which we've had in the previous editions. Next, we've got Arcane Bolt, which has a casting value of 5, which is a spell, and it causes 1 mortal wound to a unit within 18, or if the casting roll was 10, it suffers D3 mortal wounds. So those aren't savable. Those wounds go straight through your armor and F you up. Then you've got Mystic Shield, casting value of 6. If successful, a unit with an 18 can re-roll saves of 1 for that unit until your next hero phase. So that's pretty cool. It costs a little more, but if you consider the guys that you're likely to use with it, for example, Age of Sigmar guys, they've got armor 3. If you're re-rolling 1s, you're only kind of failing if, on the first roll at least if you roll a 2. So it really does increase it. Then we're going through the turn sequence, and this is a much more complete turn sequence, including all the bits. Now we've got War Scrolls for Secretors. So this is a nice complete much more complete War Scroll here. I've been through the stats of Secretors before, but you've got Wounds 2, Move 5, Save 4, and Bravery 7, and you've got your Storm Smite Maul or your Great Mace. They're both range 1, attacks 2 to hit 3 to wound 3. The only difference is that the Great Mace has a rend of 1 and a damage of 2, whereas the Storm Smite Maul has no rend and a damage of 1. So with the Great Mace, you can do a lot more damage. Unfortunately, you don't have it. Well, yeah, you don't have a shield, but number of models armed with Storm Smite Maul. Right. A unit of Secretors has any number of models. This unit is armed with Storm Smite Maul and Soul Shields. 2 in every 5 models. So showing you the limits there. Can replace the unit's weapon with a Storm Smite Great Mace. So you've got limits there. Secretor Prime. The leader of the unit is a Secretor Prime. The Secretor Prime can replace the unit's weapon option with a Storm Smite Great Mace. In addition to any other models in the unit that can do so. Add 1 to the attack characteristic of the Secretor Prime's melee weapon. So he basically he has 3 attacks, so that's cool. And you've got the Great Mace Blast, which is nice, and the Etheric, which is basically unmodified hit rolls for an attack with a Storm Smite Great Mace that targets a Demon or Nighthaunt unit is 6. Sorry, if an unmodified hit roll is 6. That unit inflicts D3 hits on the target instead of 1. So that's for the Great Mace, which is confusing. That doesn't make sense. Oh, it does D3 hits, and then instead of 1 hit, you get damage. So you get 2 attacks. Each attack would then be multiplied by D3, and then for however many hits, you would then get 2 damage. So if you rolled 3 both times, you got 6 hits, you'd be doing 12 damage. If you roll 1 both times, you get 2 hits, you'd be doing 4 damage. So, and between 4 and 12, that's pretty awesome. And then you've got the Sector Channeling. It can channel an etheric power. If you choose its weapons, you can reroll failed attacks. If you choose its shields, you can reroll failed saves, which is awesome. Then you've got Soul Shields, which you can reroll saves rolls of 1 for attacks that target this unit if any models from this unit are carrying soul shield. So that's pretty cool as well. You've got the sector abilities, and you've got a walkthrough here of what each of them do. I'll just explain what each of them do, so I'm not going to go through the explanation, but I will go through well, no, yeah, I've literally explained it as well. So yeah, you're good there. Yeah, I shall go through the walkthroughs. The start of the combat phase, the Stormcast player declares channeling power to the Sequitors' weapons. 2 of the Sequitors' attacks miss. Etheric channeling to weapons means they reroll both misses, resulting in 2 hits. So that's awesome. Shields. At the start of the combat phase, the Stormcast player declares channeling power into the Sequitors' shields. The Nighthaunts cause 2 wounds. The Sequitors both fail saves. They reroll both saves. This time they make 1 save and they fail 1 save. So that's pretty cool. And there you see there's the explanation there. And then the soul shields are pretty simple. You reroll a 1. We've then now got the Chain Rasp Hordes. Again, we've had the stats on these before, but just to refresh, 1 wound, move 6, save 5, bravery 6. And they all carry 1 weapon, which is a range 1, attack 2, to hit 4, to wound 4, rend and damage 1. Let's double check the range on the Great Mace. Nope, the range on the Great Mace is 1 as well. If a 2-handed weapon hasn't got range. You got a Dread Warden. The leader of the Dread Warden adds 1 to attack characteristics. The Dread Warden's malignant weapon. In addition, the Chain Rasp Horde has a bravery A Chain Rasp Horde has a bravery characteristic of 10 instead of 6, while it includes a Dread Warden. And that's why you include heroes, although that seems a massive buff to bravery. This unit can fly. Ethereal. Creatures whose bodies have rotted away are difficult to harm. Ignore modifiers, positive or negative, when making save rolls for attacks against a target unit. And they've got Chilling Horde, which is you can reroll wounds. You can reroll wound rolls of 1 for this unit while it has more than 10 models. It will tell you how many models you can have, but I'd imagine that'll happen in the battle phase. If you want, you can get the battle tomes for this from GW, and in the back of the battle tomes it tells you how many models you can have in a unit and how many multiples they increase by. For example, some units you have to have at least 5, and you can have 10 or 15. Other units you only need 3 of them, but then you then can have 6 or 9. And other units work differently. Other units you can have 5, and then you'd add to a 2 more and 3 more and things like that. But they're weird units. Most units have 1 base number, and then you can add in multiples of that number. But it says in the back of your thing. Then we got the Nighthaunt abilities. It walks through these. The Dread Warden is the unit leader. This model always gets an extra attack, meaning it rolls 3 attacks instead of 2. In addition, as long as this model is still alive, the Chain Rasp leadership is 10 rather than 6, making it much easier for them to pass. And then Chilling Horde. In great numbers, a Chain Rasp Horde surrounds their foes are deadly. To stimulate this in your game, they have a Chilling Horde rule. As long as there's at least 10 Chain Rasps in a unit, they may reroll ones. May reroll wound rolls of 1. As soon as it drops below 10, they lose the ability. So that's pretty cool. And here you've got in the combat phase, the Nighthaunt player has attacked with a unit of Sequitors. Has attacked a unit of Sequitors with a unit of 15 Chain Rasps. The Nighthaunts may reroll 1 if they roll 1s. And in this to wound roll, you can see they rolled 2 1s and they got to reroll them. The Chilling Horde only allows Chain Rasps to reroll wounds of 1. If any other failures cannot be rerolled. So if you roll a 1, you get another chance. If you roll a 2, and then Ethereal, as you say, it prevents modifiers such as rend. Although Sacres have special weapons. Next, we've got the little story here, which is introducing you to the battle, which is cool. War comes to Gearing, and here we're using the big sheet we got a couple of weeks back, well, a month back actually. Stormcast has arrived in Giran and must drive back the Nighthaunts so their allies can join them. The Nighthaunts must slay them before they can establish a beachhead. Lay out your battle map, gather your dice, range rules and tokens. Make sure you have the rules reference sheet 1 and your war scrolls to hand. Choose which person's going to take which side and use the following setup below. So there you go. You've got 5 Sequitors on one end and 15 Chain Rasps right at the other. Remember, the lightning is for the Sequitors and the skulls is for the Chain Rasps, or for the Nighthaunts. It's got the armies here, as I just said, 15 Chain Rasps, 5 Sequitors. The players alternate setting up units, 1 unit at a time. You've got 2 units, so just roll on whoever gets up first. Stormcasts and Nighthaunts must be wholly within their territory, which is there and there. You can see your setup zones. In this one, Stormcast player takes the first turn in the first battle round. You follow the instructions on reference sheet 1. Battle plans A, gear and 1 to play through the game. The game ends when one player has no models on the battlefield. We're doing a lot of that so far with the battles, in that they end with a victory condition, which is commonly referred to as total annihilation. That doesn't have to be the only victory condition you use. There are other victory conditions, and you may find some armies work better with different victory conditions. Some armies are better at capture and hold, some armies are better at total annihilation, some armies are better at hit and run objectives, and there's various different objectives, which I'm sure they'll cover later on. Okay, now going to the back page. Right, in issue 22, we're getting Mephiston Red, which is a really nice red, and Rakarth Flesh, which is actually a really good pallid flesh. GW doesn't do any bad colours. The worst they do is, bog standard colours, like black is black and white is white, and the greys are the greys. But almost all of their colours are really good in the situations they're intended to be used. So that's issue 22 there. Oh, sorry. And then issue 23, you can see we got some more good stuff. Issue 23, Stormcast reinforcements. You get Liberators and Prosecutors. They're basically the hammer wielders. The Prosecutor is the guy with the wings, and that's fantastic to have a flying guy. And the Liberators, pretty much the first Stormcast model that came out, are the guys with the hammers. I've got a few of them already from the previous box set, so I can add to that, which is nifty. These guys don't have magical stuff, but they are still pretty chuffing awesome, and they go smashy real good. So that's it for this week. I will see you guys next week, and I hope you enjoyed the Wargamer cubbyhole with the Wargamer not really a curtain. I'll see you guys next week.